Hey, what's up, y'all?
Powered by Riverside
Will here with
Events.
Schedule Fly, and this is the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast. We are super stoked to have Don Nicol from TacoLu back on here. He's been on here at least once, maybe twice. Long time customer of Schedule Fly. In fact, I'm not even going to do the Schedule Fly advertisement intro piece because he kind of does it for us, unsolicited, unprompted, but he gives a great summary of our value proposition. So I'll let you listen to that in the episode. And we also talk about pop menu. I did prompt that one, which is a great partner of ours. So Don Nicol, TacoLu, Jacksonville, Florida. This place is iconic. It's an institution. I have some TacoLu shirts, and I've been in the Denver airport. I've been in Manhattan. I've been all over the place, and I'm wearing that shirt, and somebody's like, "Oh, TacoLu, I love that place." So this place is iconic, and Don is the man. He's a legend. Y'all will enjoy this episode. Thank you for listening. Oh, pause it if you don't mind. Pause it right now, please, and give us a 5-star rating. If you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, even if you have time to write a quick comment, that'd be even cooler. But we need those ratings because the more ratings we get, the more this gets in front of people that would benefit from it. So pause, rating, click the stars, done. If you want to write a comment, it takes 20 or 30 seconds. If not, just click the stars and back to listening. Thank y'all. See you.
Shaq. What's going on, man? Good to see you.
You got the memo about the white beard and the hat?
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Actually, been planning on this one. Been working on this long beard this white beard for a long time.
Yeah, man. Love it, dude. Love it. How's everything?
Everything's good. We're busy. Just fighting that fight of keeping costs down. That's the biggest thing. Obviously, getting customers walk in the door. Taking care of them when they get here. So that's the big thing.
Yeah, keeping costs down. What costs are hardest to keep down right now?
Labor and food.
Yeah.
I mean, all costs are up incredibly since 21. I mean, from dry goods and proteins up and down. But some of the big stuff that especially when you go from styrofoam, which is now nobody can do it, to the fancy stuff. Because when you go like at TPC at the Players, they wouldn't let us use foam anymore. And during COVID, you had to have something with the lid. So we're selling one taco for whatever the hell we charge them over there. And then you're giving them $1 worth of to-go, which gets thrown away 10 feet away from the tin. It was, we could talk about COVID for a million years, but labor is the big thing. Labor's up 30, 40% since 21 or 22. It's just one of those crazy numbers. After 21 or 22, people are walking in, A, with no experience, B, we don't know who the hell they are. They want $17 or $18 an hour. I'm like, I've got guys who've been here for 6 or 8 years who are getting $17, $18 an hour. They were the top of the crop, cream of the crop. And then, that's just the way it goes. And that's where the a rising tide raises all boats. Like when you start paying newbies that much, then everybody starts getting paid, which is fine. I love paying people. I love them making what they want to make or what they get to make. But then you got to go from $2.99 bang a shrimp taco to $3.99, and now I think it's $4.50. That taco was $2.99 for 15 years, and now we can't do it. And I've had to raise prices twice in the last probably 2 years. Just something I lose sleep over, charging people for this stuff. But you gotta.
Yeah. Well,
and everybody says, "Oh, it's still cheap, man. It's still affordable." I mean, I went to Poe's yesterday. One of my favorite places, my former Sticky Fingers partners are part of that and moving on. And I go there all the time. But I will admit, it's been a while. I took my son and we're sitting down and we sit at the bar and a burger's $18.95. I was like, holy shit, where did that happen? And it was delicious. And, they put so much food on. It's a ridiculous amount of food that goes on there. But I mean, you can't take you and your wife and daughter to Chick-fil-A for less than $50. You know what I mean? It's just a new world. And as long as people aren't revolting, we're just going to keep going. And I hope I don't have to raise prices again anytime soon.
Yeah, you had really good. You were out of town or something. I was down there back in January, but you had like items on there that were, I guess maybe because everything else has gone up so much. I'm like, golly, this is not expensive. Like, this is awesome.
I'm trying to. I went to a Mexican place in town that will remain unnamed. Bah, I don't really care. But it kind of woke me up because it's this little itty bitty place, and it wasn't terrible. But the street corn they had was $10. It was in a bowl. It was corn out of a can, and it had a ton of water in the bottom of it, and like a little cheese on top. And mine, if I may be so bold, is incredible. And it's corn that we roast and shuck, and then hit on the grill or to blacken, and then we cut it off the damn cob, and then we serve it with crema and all that, just a ton of stuff. And at the time it was cheap, it was like $4.99 or $5. And my bowl was bigger, and I'm like, this is nuts. And so it's worth a lot more. And I think now it's $7.99. I should know, but I don't remember. But I was almost, my managers are like, oh, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. If you got to go up, we got to go up. And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. And nobody said a word, and it's fantastic. And I thought, man, if they're getting away with $10 for shitty corn, then I should be able to charge at least $7 or $8 for really good stuff. I made up this new queso. Like, if you came down today, I'd be like, hey man, I got something for you. Like, nobody else makes it. It's street corn with a shitload of queso, cotija. It's basically dressed like street corn, but it's got 8 ounces of queso in it. And everybody's like, oh, you got to put this on the menu. You got to put this on the menu. I'm like, I don't know if my corn if I can handle more cases of corn. It's so labor intensive to get that, because you put it on sheet trays, and it's just one of those things we do all day long, corn and making salsas and stuff. But it's tough to keep up with the corn, but I guess we've gotten pretty good at it on the volume side.
Have you seen, are consumers still, they're absorbing this and still spending, or?
Yeah, still spending. I mean, we're still gang busting crazy. And again, people, I hoot and holler about having to raise prices, and they're like, this place is as affordable as any place you can go. I've had to raise, the whole idea when we opened, 2 tacos and a couple beers was $10. $6 for 2 tacos, and happy hour is 5 hours long. Beers were $2. We have our 12-ounce glasses, and now it's hard to do that, but you can still do a couple tacos, and plus you get chips and salsa. I mean, yeah. I don't charge anybody for chips and salsa. I never will. I did. Again, these kids who work the floor and servers who are generally greedier than the rest of us want to charge for a lot of things. And I'm like, I'm not charging for a side of ranch or any of that kind of stuff. But we did do a salsa trio. You probably saw it on the menu. We've never had it before, but because what these servers are saying is that we're bringing out food, and they want the Debs Verde, and they want the habanero salsa, and they want that we make it kind of a special barbecue sauce for a certain taco. Kids dip stuff in it, and you can get 3. You pick 3 for $6, and it's just a little 3-ounce container. But first week I tracked it, I was like, oh shit, we sold like 300 of those things. And I shudder to think how much I spend on salsa and chips in a year. I looked it up probably in 2010. Eric and I were checking it out, and I said, look, I don't ever want to see that number again. If we can keep from throwing it away and wasting it, that's the best we can do. But I'm not going to start charging people for something that's, traditionally what happens when you walk in a Mexican place, they bring out chips and salsa and you go. And nobody ever says, no, you can't have more. So whatever, it's just part of the deal. Part of the cost.
Yeah. It's, well, you've got certain things, man. This is what I admire about you, Don, and so many of the people we serve. It's like, there's things that matter to you, and you're sticking with it come hell or high water. Like you just said, I'll never charge people for chips and salsa. Like, yeah. It's really interesting, man, because you came from Sticky Fingers, so you came from a larger organization, more of a corporate kind of place, but you've got a very independent mindset. Like, because the corporate guys would be like, no, look at this spreadsheet, like,
right. Like they're the guys who say, we're going to take the onion loaf off the menu and add this, and where you think it's going to, they know what it's going to bring to the bottom line. And I'm just like, well, I hate the onion loaf. Let's get rid of it. Let's put something else on there. But you're right. And for a quick second, the coolest thing about Sticky Fingers, and up until 2005 when it was sold, it was kind of like 15 or 18 guys like me running restaurants with the 3 guys the founders, who were just, just standing behind us, seeing what they could do. The funniest thing I always think of today, and one of the things that'll be probably the first chapter of the book, if I ever wrote a book, is that when I opened TacoLu, I had no idea about cash flow. I had no idea. At Sticky Fingers, like, they'd bring us an invoice and we'd be like, hey man, just send it to Charleston. I never wrote a check for a bill. You know what I mean? It always went, because, by the time I opened the 6th Sticky in Atlantic Beach, in Florida, it was the 6th one. And then, by then these guys had organized around, they had somebody, a controller and somebody paying bills. And at some point there was a marketing director. But I just remember laughing because I was like indignant when somebody wanted a check. I'm like, man, I don't pay. You got to send it to the court. We called it corporate, but we never called it corporate. And then I remember the first 2 weeks we were open, before we opened, we're training, and I've been painting and tearing up carpet and all this stuff. And I had this X amount of dollars I wanted to spend before we opened this place. And I was almost at the end of that. And I thought, well, I'm not going to write another check to TacoLu. And we opened on a Thursday. We probably did nothing Thursday, Friday. What payroll was Thursday, the day we opened, and I'd been training for 2 weeks already, so I had to pay payroll before we opened, the first payroll, and I had $6,000 in my account, and payroll was $8,800. And I thought, and I started to panic because what do I know? I had no idea what was going on, and so we opened Thursday, and we, next thing I know, come Monday morning, we had $16,000 in the bank. And I paid payroll. And I'm like, oh, I get it. As long as there's money still going in there, it was just one of those. But now that I'm sitting down, I'm having to pay Cisco and Coke and everybody. I was like, man, I wish I could just send this to Charleston. It was nuts. But the whole cash flow thing was something that, and it really, part of maybe the experience for me was not having to deal with that shit and dealing with getting customers in the door and making sure the staff was ready to rock every day. And, the hardest stuff is keeping the building up and, that kind of stuff. But to me, my favorite part is obviously front of the house and getting people to understand how important it is to make the customer, the most important person for the next hour, So that's just, it was part of the learning curve of having opening and being an independent, quote unquote, and not corporate anymore. Because boy, when they sold it, we had specialists all over us and guys who know the math, you know what I mean? And this is pretty cool, but I probably should have learned a lot more from those guys before I got into this. But after 17 years, now we're having our 17th anniversary on Saturday, the 5th of July.
Congrats,
Crazy, right? And like to think that Lucy was 3 when we opened, and now she's 20 and working here and in college and all that kind of stuff. Like it's just flown by. It's hard to believe how much time has gone by, but it doesn't. It seems like a blink. I'm sure same for you. How long has Schedule Fly been open?
18 years, man.
18. Okay, so we the original building, I could see every table from the host stand, every single table. And it was a small building, but we still had 150 seats or whatever. And I remember we opened on Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and I woke up Thanksgiving morning going, I have no idea how we're going to make this work, because from the host stand, you can't see anything. You can see the side of the bar and whatever. We didn't have Schedule Fly. We didn't have, what was it called? No Wait is what it was called. We got it.
Oh, yeah.
Yelp owns it. Yelp owns it now. And man, was I about to bail, and Yelp's a pain in my butt, but but it's something we'll probably always have. It's where the text thing, where somebody's sitting out front. These poor girls were going, brawl table for 4, and they'd have to walk an acre, to get everybody to figure out where they were. But the biggest thing that Schedule Fly cures is that the second that schedule comes out on paper, somebody might as well dump a bunch of ink all over, X, people covering shifts. And I remember thinking, why didn't I do this? Why haven't we done this for this whole time? Because you couldn't even read the schedule by the end of the week.
Yep.
And but 18 years, so I remember waking up looking, I need to figure this out. And I looked up best apps for restaurants, and I came up with No Wait, and you came across there somehow. And I thought, oh my God, this is something we definitely need to do. The managers, as much as they fight change and that kind of shit, the minute they filled it out the first couple times, it was, obviously we're never going back. So
yeah,
18 years, that's crazy. How old was your daughter when you started?
Oh God. Bella's 3, she's 21 now. So she was
same age.
Yeah.
It's funny. Ugh.
Yep. We started on May 1st, 2007, and then we just went through that transition where I bought out Wes and Tyler on April 30th. So literally that was an 18-year run as a group of partners. And
What are they doing? Are they out? Or are they consulting with you or what?
they're certainly helping as needed, but they're out. I mean, they just that's a long run, and it was great. I feel like, look, here we are. Okay, when we started, if you told me that 18 years later there would still be hundreds of thousands of restaurants doing exactly what you were talking about and writing a
Right.
Excel, and posting it on the board, and then like you may as well dump ink all over it. You nailed it. Like I would have never believed that. I would have said 10 years most, every restaurant's going to have a scheduling software. And here we are 18 years later, and there's hundreds of thousands of them that are on pencil and paper, Excel,
Yeah.
or they're just opening. People are opening doors all the time. And so,
And to compound that stupidity, I think, or ignorance, is that everybody does everything by their phone now. I mean, if my servers or kids want to pick up a shift, I mean, they get that notification, and bam, and right now, this time of year, we're fighting for shifts because all the kids are back from college, and we're not overstaffed, but the shifts aren't up for very long. And
yeah,
otherwise, how did you do it back then? I don't even remember, but the ease of which, and for management having that kind of stuff handled beyond the, approving it or not, which is a must, not having to deal with the paper, and it just kind of happens in the background, and we come in the morning and we look and see what shifts need to be approved or not, and rarely do we not approve something. I mean, if some kid picks up a new kid picks up a shift that maybe we think he can't handle, then they'll shift things around and he'll pick up, so whatever. But it frees up management to a degree that I can't even tell you, because we spent so much time with that crap, and now it's like, you guys handle it yourselves and we'll just oversee it, and it gets done. And it's so much easier than and so I was shocked when you told me that there are so many people out there who don't do Schedule Flyer. They don't do, I don't even know any other ones, but it's that should be a pretty easy sell for you, fella.
well,
I mean, for Pete's sake, if they knew how much easier it would make their lives. I don't know how it would be if you have 10 employees. Maybe it's not. But for anybody with 20 or 30, it's just because in the beginning we had 30 or 40 people and 50. When we left the building over there in 2012, I had 70 or 5-ish. And I thought, this building, ultimately we're going to need, there's just a couple more sections, 180 seats in here. And we didn't open the patio, but the next thing I knew, we had 125 people, which was crazy. And that, I mean, there's no way we could print out an Excel sheet with 100 people. Well, I mean, 60-ish servers and 30 people in the kitchen, probably, that kind of thing. So
some still do it. Some still do it. It's amazing. I mean, Angus Barn up there in North Carolina is still on Excel. We had them running a pilot, and we may eventually get their business, but I mean, they've got like 300 employees and they do everything on Excel. I don't get it. I don't know how you do that, but like you said, it's people don't want to change. They're resistant to change, but then like sometimes, hopefully in our situation, after they do go over that hump and make the change, they're like, holy crap, why didn't we do this? What were we thinking?
I don't know how other restaurants do it, but Heather Ann Puckett or Callaway, she's gotten married since, kind of ran with that. She did the server schedule, and I hated it in the beginning, and I'm used to it now, but the way we do it is we go and as they schedule the floor per shift, each shift has a section attached to it. I don't know if anybody else has done that or if anybody does it. And I thought, it takes a little bit of the autonomy of the floor manager away, because, when I get there in the morning, or used to get there in the morning, and I'd have 10 servers, I'd be like, all right, this guy's in the bar, this guy's in the patio, this kid's weak, needs some help in the 30s, which is, by the kitchen or whatever. And then but what has happened is that the schedule comes out, they know they're on the patio on Friday. So they're looking at the weather, or they know they're in the bar on Friday night. They know they're going to be here late. And if they, and again, switching with someone else is as simple as, hey, I can't be in the bar all night tonight. Can you switch with me so I get out? Sure. That kind of stuff. And I bitched about Heather Ann, because it looked to me like she was going a mile and a half beyond, because that's a ton of shifts to schedule. Because Tuesday morning is different from Saturday morning, and Sunday morning is different from Saturday morning, and so she might have a slot for different servers at different times with different it's just, I thought it was crazy and but then whatever. 2 months later, it makes perfectly good sense, and now 10 years later or 12 years later, it makes a lot of sense, and we never changed it, so it must be working for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those things that, especially having 2 kids in the house, that bitch about everybody in the restaurant or love. I got little spies walking around. We hear inside track from my kids, but those two, my Henry and Lucy, trying to pick up shifts is the funniest thing ever. Like, oh, I don't want that. They're on the patio. I'm like, well, fucking patio. If the weather's good, you make a ton of money. If it's bad, you got the night off, which is a drag. That's probably the biggest thing we're facing right now is I got to figure out a way to keep that patio seated almost year round. I mean, year round. If it didn't rain, we could seat it year round. There's a couple of days where it's cold. Maybe people don't want it, but heaters. It's just the rain that, obviously, you're full inside. You're on a wait. Some silly Florida storm comes through, and I have to put 30 people somewhere. It's a drag. So we got to figure that out. And I probably should have done it years ago, but.
The patio, that's the out back, right?
Outside. It's uncovered. I mean, you used to have a lot more shade, but the hurricanes have taken a bunch of trees, and it's incredible seating, with the exception of July. It's August, June, late June, July through August, September. It really gets nice in the fall and the spring. And even in the winter, if the sun's out and it's not blowing, it's still great. But it is probably the big question mark for us, daily, at this point, daily, because it's perfect out right now. And at 3 o'clock, you'll get these big thunderheads. And if they come over the intercoastal, everybody's got to go inside. So part of the deal is just watching the weather. For sure.
There's really not a whole lot you can do about that, right? Other than just cover it, which makes the experience different. But
yeah, I mean, I want to cover it, but not, a higher, maybe in some kind of different thing where you could, because I don't want to cover the mural up, and then I don't really care about the woods, but just enough room to keep like 30 seats out there in almost any weather would be just incredible. When I first started thinking about this, it was probably $50,000. Now it's 120 if it's a minute, because everything's gone up. And oddly, since COVID, I talked about replacing one of my walk-in coolers, and a guy said to me, one of the guys who works for the company, quoting it, he goes, "Look, the problem now is that the city wants to make sure you have architectural drawings, environmental, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, oh, what do you mean? Like, I'm putting a new box on the same pad, with a more efficient blah, blah, blah. And I find it hard to believe that the city's going to make things more difficult for everybody. But, 2020 through 24 was a little weird. So maybe we'll get some better deregulating stuff. But it was, that kind of stuff just makes me go, I'm not even going to do it. We'll just let it ride the way it is. And dealing with the city is a drag. I talked to one guy once about the patio, because we were trying to do an extension of premise, because before COVID, you couldn't have anybody drinking out in the yard or the parking lot, and I don't think that's changed. Obviously, we can't sell bottles of booze anymore, or booze to go, but those are emergency responses. But I was like talking about the extension of premise, and he goes on about how we wouldn't be able to have that patio today because it's based on your square footage, and it can only be a percent. I'm like, let's don't talk about what could have been or what isn't. So I feel like if I go in and I say, hey, I want to put a cover on this, they'll be like, well, you got to make your patio smaller. But I don't know if they can do that. I just don't want to deal with it, so we'll let the rain come and figure that out later.
Dude,
I think I'm lazy. I think I'm getting lazier the older I get.
You just don't want to deal with the BS, man. I mean, you got to, I admire what you've done so much, because you've got this iconic brand, dude. I can't tell you. I wish I should have worn my TacoLu shirt. I've got a couple actually. Dude, I have had people stop me. I had somebody stop me in the Denver airport.
Oh, really?
Oh, dude. I get people. I'm not kidding, man.
That's funny.
I have a lot of customer shirts, right?
Right.
The TacoLu shirt is the shirt that I wear that I'm most likely somewhere somebody's gonna be like, love that place.
I That's fine. I love it. Hey, here in Jacksonville, we see a bunch of it, but I'm going to send you a Sunrise Surf Shop shirt because I feel the same way. I mean, I see a lot of ours. I wore Tacos on 12, this specifically Masters colored green Tacos on 12 shirt to Augusta this year. I got a couple tickets, and every time anybody offers me a ticket, because it's also Masters Week is also during my birthday, and I have a standing cancellation clause during the week because if a lot of people here work for the tour, and if they happen to know somebody who's got an extra ticket or whatever, I'm like, yes, and it's a 4-hour drive. I didn't, we had a Sticky Fingers in Augusta, and I would it became part of my territory after I was not an operator. And I remember leaving and thinking, oh, if I leave at this time, I'll get there right when the restaurant. I walk in the kitchen, it's 9:15. I said, does the time change in Augusta? Like, is it Central Time here? It was weird. I made it in 4 hours. And I couldn't. I was like, wow, now I'm never going to leave before Starbucks opens again. But I wore Tacos on 12 to Augusta, and it was hilarious how many people would be like, and it doesn't say TacoLu. It says it on the sleeve. On the back, it has Tacos on 12 or 12 on 12. Did I send you a 12 on 12 shirt or 12 shirt, 12th anniversary shirt? I don't think so.
No, I don't. You did. I've got two. Here's what I've got though. This is my favorite. I've got it sitting here in the office. This is my favorite coffee mug.
Oh yeah, Tacos on 12.
Yeah, it's like the little golf ball perforated mug.
Yeah.
I freaking love this thing.
Well, this year was our 12th year at the Players. And I remember 2014 was our first year, so 2024, again, my math skills, I was thinking that was 10 years. And when I added up on my fingers, it was 11.
Yeah.
I missed the 10th anniversary. Well, next year's 12, so perfect. And I had big plans and executed them. The 12 on 12, instead of it says tacos, it says 12 on 12. It's a subtle difference, but obviously they're obsolete after this year. But walking around Augusta, so many people would be like, "Oh, 12, hey, the Players, 12, 12 on 12 or 12." Or a lot of people said TacoLu, but then I also had on my Sunrise hat. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, you from Jacksonville?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." "Oh, I love that. We used to live there. I used to shop at Sunrise, blah, blah, blah." That's funny. But I have a couple of 12 shirts I'll send you, I think. 12 on 12.
Oh, man, I'd love one. Talk about that event. So how did it get started and what's it like today? I mean, how much business do you do out there?
Well, it is. My old man worked for Arnold Palmer. I've had a set of clubs this big. I played high school and college golf. Played college golf at JU here in town, and so I've always been interested. I mean, I always say that Tacos on 12 has ruined my favorite week of the year because I have to work in the morning and then I have to work at night. We had the first year we had a 20 by 20 tent in 2014, and it was the guy who was running the tournament kept saying we want to do it. I'm like, I'm not going to be in a food court out there. I just don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. And I'm not 100% sure why I don't want to be in a food court, but that's just how I envisioned it. And he said, come out and take a look. So we go look, and behind 12, which they used to call Porta Potty Alley, because they had either stored porta potties or had them set up to use, but nobody ever went on that part of the back nine. So it's this shaded, beautiful, hardwoods and pine, and like, it's just us. Let's do it. I'm in. So we did the first year. Next year, we needed a 30 by 20 tent or 30 by 30 or whatever. We parked the taco truck in the back, and that's just the kitchen. And we do 4 tacos. We're out there Tuesday through Sunday. And we've had generally good weather all these 12 years. We've had a couple of days of rain, and then obviously COVID, they shut it down Thursday afternoon. We had the biggest weekend in the restaurant ever because all these people are here for the tournament. And, at that point, the beaches weren't closed yet and all that kind of shit. But last year, and this is where people start almost raging on me about my prices, because I'm selling bangin' shrimp for $2.99 back in 2012 or 14. And we sold them for $4 for the first year or maybe 2. And people are like, man, you've got to raise your prices. I'm like, but remember, the cost for this is 30% of food sales, and it was 50% of alcohol sales. And people go, 50%, oh, what a bunch of jerks. I'm like, well, it's a $7 margarita that we're selling for $12 or $14. It's just I have no say in the price on the booze. And then 2 years ago, they went to 70% on the alcohol sales. which, you think, oh, I want to tell them to go stick it, but you don't want to not sell it because people aren't going to want a taco and not get a beer or a margarita. We do get to sell margaritas. And I mean, now I think, I want to say tacos are $7 now there.
Right.
But we went back to a slightly larger tortilla. I mean, and again, it's one of those things where I'm like, but a corn dog is 10. It's ridiculous. It's like going to an NFL game, especially after you go to Augusta in April and like Henry and I went and we got 2 beers, 3 sandwiches, some chips, and probably a cookie. And she goes, that'll be $21. And Henry looked at me like, what in the world? I mean, it literally was $20. It would have been $80 or $100 anywhere else, any other tournament. But we did we had a big week last year. It rained on Sundays. They had a big rain delay, 3 or 4 hours in the middle of the day. But only Rory and one other group was on 11 at the time, or 12. And so those guys were like, look, you guys don't have to come back after the rain. There's only going to be 15 minutes worth of golf, and then they're past you and gone. So we cleaned up and we got out, and then they finished, but then there was a playoff, so we got to go back the next day. So we sold, but I think we did like $180,000 that week in basically, and Sunday was a half a day for us. We did half of what we normally do on the Sunday. And I mean, that $7 tacos and $14 margaritas add up awfully quickly. But I mean, it's just one of these things where between 11 and 3, there's 200 people in the line all day. And the line takes 10 or 15 minutes. But the minute you order your food, you take 10 steps to the left. And I mean, it comes out like that. And that's what people, standing in the line is cool. It sucks. You're socializing, you get your friends and people everywhere. But once you order your food and you stand there, if you have to wait very long, it's just, like I always say, there's only one thing worse than waiting to eat in a restaurant, and that's waiting to pay. Like when you sit there and you're waiting for the guy to come back and give you your check and get the hell out. But the minute you pay in the beginning and I'm telling you, it's unless we have something weird happen and we're out of bang and shrimp for a few minutes, that's the only time we ever have any delays. And so people think, oh, wow, that was super fast. And they just waited 15 minutes. They're standing basically in the back of 12 green to get to the front of our tent. And we have a queue, and we have 5 people taking orders. It's Josh Kessler, who's one of my managers, is and another guy have that just a well-oiled machine from the food coming out of the truck. Years ago we got an oven in the tent to do chicken because you can't just put it on a flat top. It's not that good. And every year it's like, I always equate it. And I've never had one, but I think it's like having a baby. I think we're all excited about it. And then in the middle, I'm like, why in the hell would I ever do this again? This is the worst week of my life. We're at the restaurant at 6 a.m. I'm here till 10 o'clock at night. I've been at the golf tournament. Now I'm not slaving over a fryer. I'm watching some golf and I'm shaking hands and whatever. But I leave about 3 or 4 and I come here and then I kind of manage players and caddies and writers and all the people that come in, which is me drinking beers and having fun with these people. So it's a lot of fun. But I mean, last year I worked 7 doubles in a row because we were open on Mondays. We opened up on Monday 2 years ago because one of these guys called and said he wants to bring in, Justin Thomas called and said he wants to bring his Alabama golf team for dinner Monday night. And Debbie's like, oh, Pumpkin, sorry, we're closed on Monday. I'm like, hold on a minute. Every Tuesday or Wednesday, people say, oh, we flew in last night. The first thing we did was come here and the place is dark. I'm like, oh, shoot. So I thought I'd open up, and we had a pretty good night the first time we did it. And last year it was a bust. And I mean, a bust. And I mean, you can't put it out more on the socials. You're like, open Monday, come in Monday. I mean, it was terrible. So bad that I'm not ever going to do it again. I mean, we need that day off. We need to be at the tournament getting ready at full power. You know what? It just was like I feel like it was just a drain on the week. It's a long week for everybody. I have the easiest probably, but so I just said last year, I was like, you know what, I'm not going to do that again. And I'm not saying it isn't worth it, but it isn't worth it. Not money wise, but like morale wise and physically. I mean, shit, for me to get up at 6 a.m. and go to the tournament and then come back at 3 or 4, I might catch a shower. It's a long week, but again, it's not a moneymaker. But you take 30 points off the top of anything. I don't care if you're selling a $6 taco, $5 taco for $6 or $7. I got 15 people in the tent making a ton of money, and the tips are awesome. That's the reason they love doing it. But But, I'm on the Golf Channel many days of the week. I'm on the radio. We always take food to the local sports channel. I mean, I'm 10 or 15 minutes on the radio talking about Mocs basketball or players. And, and all these guys come in, all the Golf Channel guys come in, and we do. It's just, now here I am gushing about it again. And in the middle of March, I was like, oh, this week is going to kill me. But it's, as far as marketing goes, I mean, it's a crazy, crazy day. Now, my friends in New Jersey who see me on the Golf Channel, we're not spending money. They're not coming to eat. You know what I mean? They're just pumped to see me on TV. And I understand that, anything out of Duval County is worthless as far as marketing goes, but it's still cool to be on the Golf Channel. It's still cool to be, written up by the New York Post because I happen to play golf with a guy who's a writer, and he talks about, back in the day, he talked about how Ricky Fowler stumbled on my name at the press conference the year after when he's like, Debbie, everybody knows Debbie. And he's like, yeah, and what's his name? And all the writers go, Don. And he's like, oh yeah, Don, sorry about that. And it's just, that's what he wrote about. He's like, yeah, Don gets forgotten a lot or whatever. It's just, it's a crazy fun week. And then, you go to the tournament, you go to Augusta, and at the presser, you got Damon Hack and all these guys in that, and you know them. It's weird. And of course, I wear the 12 shirt. That helped. I don't know if anybody recognizes me. I have a TacoLu shirt on, but it's a crazy, crazy week. I'll do it as long as they'll have us, and so hopefully now that we made it to 12, it's not so critical. 13 doesn't have the same ring. We're back to tacos on 12 next year, but
how big is the tent now?
It's still 30 by 30 feet across, probably maybe 20 deep, but we don't need any more space than that. We have Cisco puts a giant trailer back there. I mean, we have 100 cases of banging shrimp, Baja fish, and cheese, and it's an entire restaurant off site. It's a operating. My catering manager runs it from the outside. Josh is on the inside, and it's a huge event, and they all have a great time doing it. So I always think anytime you can get out of the restaurant, you know what I mean, and work, it's fun. It's good, but I mean, it's just for 7 days. Josh Kessler is 6 a.m. until they're all done and everything's cleaned up for the 6 days we're open, and then the few days before and the few days after, he's managing everything. It's a big long week.
Yeah, it is. It's an awesome week though. It's such great. All that stuff on the Golf Channel and everything is just. It's creating awareness for the brand, and those people do travel down to Florida, and you've really, I tip my hat. You built an institution, right? I'm telling you, man.
It's funny. Thank you. It is. I couldn't explain it, but the funny thing is that Sticky Fingers, which is only 2 miles north, we never got anybody. I had Paul Azinger and his dad one time, but the year we opened, 2009 was our first TPC. I had half a dozen players come in, and the guys from the tour brought, the press guys from the tour brought in all these riders from all over the place, which is how I got to know some of them. And I was amazed at the difference. And maybe, is it because Sticky Fingers is barbecue and we were Mexican? I have no idea. But I remember Ryan Moore coming in and a bunch of players, and I'm like, oh, we got a bunch of tour players in here this week. And then the press and all that. But it's like another 2 or 3. Ponte Beach is a long way away. All the guys at the Marriott and all those people who are staying near the course, they don't come up here. I mean, there's just no reason. There's a million restaurants down there. But all the press and the caddies and some of the players who don't want to stay all the way down there stay up here in Jax Beach. And it's just a big fun week. And the riders and the caddies and all the NBC guys are the guys that you get to know really well. And it's just I was amazed at the difference between. And I think it's just the distance to get all the way to the north end of the beach where Pose is now. Sticky Fingers is where Pose was, or where Pose is. And so we never got, I was there from 99 to 2007. Paul Azinger's the only guy that ever showed up. And so, but from the first tournament we had here in the smaller building, it's just been gangbusted. And a lot of that has to do with, we had a bunch of players live behind the restaurant. Jonas Blix and Nick Flanagan and Aaron Price and Cam Smith's caddy and Mark Leishman's caddy, all were roommates in the house. They were in the place all the time. And so from there, you get Matty Kelly bringing in Ricky, and you get all these guys bringing, they want to bring them up to what we do locally. And that is mainly why I think we've become a place to go for players and once they get here and Debbie gets their hooks in them and and all those guys, none of those guys come back anymore. Once they get married up, they disappear. Rory used to come twice a week. We'd have Justin and Jordan and Ricky sitting at the big table watching hockey. I'm like, what are you guys watching hockey for? But once those guys start, now they don't. They're too big now. They don't want to deal with the crowds and all that kind of crap. So, but it's a fun.
Well, but the reason that people would come there and not Sticky Fingers is because they ask, they're like, what's a cool local place, right? I mean, that's the value of being independent, and that's word of mouth, and people want to go someplace they can't get anywhere else and can't get it anywhere else. Man,
sick.
So what's next for y'all, man? You've been doing this for a while now.
Yeah.
Got your kids involved in the business? You think they'll
that's the big question. And Dan from Sunrise has been open since 1975. His kids are married and having kids, and he said to me the same thing. What's your exit plan? And this was a couple years ago, and Henry was 20 and Lucy was 17 or whatever. And Henry's worked here since he was 13 or 14. And I said, I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm selling this thing. You kidding me? He's like, really? Wait, Henry doesn't want to get involved. I said, I hadn't thought about that, really. Not that both of them really, really love working here and being here and all that. And Dan said to me, he's like, I feel like if Henry and Lucy take over, or Henry takes over, like, will I ever be able to sleep? Well, I will. I don't know if Dan will, but I would love for them to want to be involved. I think Lucy's probably too smart to be a restaurant grunt. I mean, and Henry is too, actually, but he's and the funny thing is that early on I was worried that they didn't have the hospitality gene that their mother has, or they didn't have the interest in it. Like when they're little kids, you're like, hey, look at Mr. Brawley in the hands and shake his hand and look him in the eye and say, nice to meet. That's a fight forever, right? And the first time we have these customers that don't live here anymore, but Pete and Mary, legends in this place. And Henry's just begun working. He's probably 14 or 15. I said, Henry. And he knows who they are because they've been coming for years. I said, Pete and Mary just got, will you just go over there and say hello? Because they'd love to see you. Yeah, Dad, okay. And I didn't really think of it again, but out of the corner of my eye, I see across the bar, I see him shaking Pete's hand and Mary giving a big hug. And I thought, oh, man, maybe this, kid's growing up. And they both, and as I was saying, like I have these they're not little spies, but you hear things from anybody who works at that level on the staff, and they come home bitching about something or raving about somebody or whatever. And those aren't the kind of things you really hear, from here. And so it's fun to have them, and they both really like being here. So who knows? Lucy's just changed her major from math to economics. So who knows? I have no idea. And I'm like, hey, let's get on it. I don't mind paying you. Let's do it. And so we'll see. Henry never really went to college. I mean, he went a couple of years, but he was a 2020 grad from high school. And it's like walking into a hospital. It was the most depressing thing ever, dropping him off at school. And, it just was so weird. You couldn't go to the cafeteria, but for a certain time. And the bookstore, which had wasn't open. And it was terrible. He was there for 2 semesters, and then he tried another and just didn't work out. But, he's doing something else. He's a computer. He knows computers like crazy. And so hopefully he'll do something. But I would love it if they did it. You never know. But if somebody wanted to come in and, write a check and kick my ass out, that'd be fun too. I'm not sure how to make that happen. My brother told me somebody's not made an offer, but is interested in buying his restaurant in Wyoming. I'm like, well, what are you going to do? You're 55. He goes, I don't know, greeter at Walmart. I'm like, don't sell that fucking thing. Like, what are you, crazy? Or a ranger at a golf course. I'm like, duh. And he's in Wyoming, so golf courses are open for 4 months. But he was just kidding. But, I don't know. He's like, I wouldn't have enough to retire, but I sure would have enough I wouldn't have to do much else. So I don't know. If I didn't have, and again, my role has changed in the last 4 or 5 years, where Eric and Josh are managers running things well. I'm here daily, but I'm not here grinding every day. I get to come in and, chat up and maybe help the guys in the kitchen in the morning and pretend to help unload a truck or whatever. But by the time this place gets busy and slamming, I'm off. You know what I mean? Like this, they don't need me. And so I come in and get admin stuff done. And mostly my job now is trying to keep these kids from buying new air conditioning units we don't need. You know what I mean? Like, listen, I got guys who like that low hanging fruit of getting something done without getting something done. I'm like, listen, I'll handle the ice machine. You handle cutting, making salsa. You don't have to be out in the backyard. I'll tell me about stuff for sure. But, money doesn't grow on trees around here, but I'm the only guy who feels that way, I think, sometimes. So me and Eric's tighter than which is great. But
Yeah.
and he's the one who gets pissy when we're throwing away salsa and chips. I'm like, yeah, go get them, Eric. And then on the other hand, I'm like, hey, give them more chips and salsa. They need it. So I play both sides of the aisle for these guys every once in a while. But nothing's changing right now. I still feel like I'm 18 and I walk 18 holes and I can't even function for the rest of the day. So that's not exactly true anymore, but I am trying to play a little more golf. I'm going to Scotland this year. I haven't been to Scotland ever. And, you walk 6 days in a row, you maybe play 36 a couple of days. So I've been trying to get my, off out of the sun. And it's as hot as it can be right now. So I've been walking 18 holes, and that's really what wears you out is you sweat so damn much. You can't carry enough water. So I think I'm just going to try and keep hovering here for a while. I love it. I love being here. I love all these kids that work here. I always say they keep me young or they're going to kill me early. And that's the truth.
Nah, they're keeping you young, man. I can tell. It really comes across. It's very clear you love what you do, man. And that's a huge part of your success is that you thoroughly and genuinely enjoy it. And, I think if you ever sold that place, you'd be about a week later, you'd be like, damn it.
I think you're right. Yeah. And,
Miss that.
The beauty of my position now, and Jeff from Sticky Fingers always said to me, look, they opened 15 or 20 restaurants. They sold it, whatever. And another guy from Sticky's got 5 or 6 locations or concepts and 12 or 13 locations. And I think after all is said and done, I'm not saying I don't have the capacity for multiple units, but I think where we are is great. I got 130 employees. And as Goldstein said, look, you work when you want to work. You do what else you need to do or want to do at this point because you don't have 15,000 irons in the fire at 10 different locations. And so many people that I've admired and looked up to in my life, beginning with this little Chinese guy in Chattanooga. My sister worked for him. And every day, just like they say to me, Mitchell, that was his name. I don't know what his real name was. We called him Mitchell and Linda. Mitchell, why don't you open another one? We want one in Riverside. We want one in Lookout Mountain. We want to. No. And he put a kid through Yale and a kid through Harvard through this place. And it was white tablecloths. And it's the benchmark for every Chinese restaurant that I ever ate at since. And there really aren't any like it anymore. But he finally ended up selling it. And of course, I don't go anymore. It's terrible. But he was one of the guys. And then another guy here in town from Caribbean Connection. I'm going to send you one of these shirts too. We did a collab with Sunrise and Caribbean Connection. It says surf, tacos, and tattoos. 80 years of local, business experience or whatever. It's really cool. And $5 per shirt goes to the Kate Amato Foundation, which is something we've supported forever. Kate is a little girl who had cancer and died, and her family's been friends of ours since way before all that. But, oh shit, now I forgot what we were talking about. Do that.
The Chinese restaurant. And
yeah. So Greg was like, hey, listen, keeping one location is awesome because the next thing you know, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul and nobody's making any money. And, and they just had their 35th anniversary. So but they did open one and it wasn't a success. It's been closed for probably 15 or 20 years, but, he and his brothers were doing it. And to me, it just makes sense to just stick with what I got, try and keep it at a level that we want it to be. And then be able to go play golf, be able to go to Scotland. I mean, for a dozen years, I couldn't leave. I mean, when we opened TacoLu, it was 2 or 3 years before. And my first trip out of town was Mexico with Herradura. And I thought, well, this is an opportunity we can't miss. And I think at that time, Heather Ann had finally quit Sticky Fingers and came over. So now I've got a manager that I know can handle anything that's thrown at her. And when we moved here into this building for 2 years, I didn't do a thing. Like I got invited to go to Ireland in the in 2013, we opened Thanksgiving, like January. This guy calls me. I said, man, I can't do it. We just opened. And by the way, we're busier than I thought we were going to be, because I always lowball expectations, I guess, which is too bad. But but then I got to go in 15. So, but there's a time when you just can't leave. And then once you finally get to where you've got management in place and whatever, and if we were like, my brother's got 49 seats. He's one manager. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for him to leave town. When I was out there in last summer to go out to dinner, he closed the restaurant. I go, what are you doing? He goes, I already made the schedule. Don't worry about it. Because his wife and his son and he were 3 out of 8 employees or something like that. And so he's just working his ass off. But, that's why I think if I had 3 or 4 locations, I wouldn't sleep, and I would be, so whatever. And it may not even net you anything beyond. I mean, I know that if you're going to grow, 2 or 3 doesn't do it. You need 6, 8, 10, 12 before it becomes something that somebody wants to look at you and go, hey man, we're going to write you a big check and stick around for a couple of years and then go. I mean, we got a couple concepts in town, Maple Street Biscuits and Metro Diner, which was on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. And those guys, I think the Outback guys bought into them, and they have hundreds now. And what's that country ass thing on the highway? What's the thing with the restaurants are out? Oh shit! What's the little country restaurant on the highways that Cracker Barrel? Cracker Barrel.
Yeah.
Cracker Barrel bought Maple Street, and I mean there's probably a couple hundred of those, so not each but together. So, and that's the kind of, but I just feel like I'm fine where we are, and we'll see how it goes from here. If I got another 8 or 10 years, I mean, we'll see.
I'm gonna let you go here in a minute, but I do want to give a little plug for our mutual friends at Pop Menu. Is that you guys are still using Pop Menu?
Absolutely, and I underutilize that. And one of the things that I think either I talked to you about it or somebody the other day, it's one of the things that I need to spend more time doing, because we've had it for, I don't know, 6 or 8 years now, maybe.
Yeah, you've had it for a little while. Yeah,
it's a lot. You can compare a lot to Schedulefly. It makes life easy. You can do anything from your phone, and really, for me, just doing it is. I do it like Cinco. I'll be like, hey, Cinco, you put banners up, and you can do all this, and we do. The reviews and stuff that are left on it are like automatically. Cash monitors all that stuff, and my manager cash. But for me, you can make any menu change. You can make price changes. You can make. We've added pictures. We've been, it's just, and I've never had anything that wasn't, you don't have to go sit at a computer and upload a picture and then, nightmare. So Pop Menu is incredible. And the people that you deal with at Pop Menu are awesome. Like, we've had a couple, but the shitty thing, and I won't make this long, but I know I talk a lot, but they bring somebody in and they sell you and it's awesome. Right. And then they come and onboard you and it's some dopey computer guy or girl. And you're like, oh, where's the superstar that was sent in here, whatever. But Pop Menu sent in a superstar, sold it. I think Cisco brought him in as one of their partners. And I knew I desperately needed it. And then the next person that comes in was awesome. And the next person that comes in was awesome. And it's one of those things where you make a phone call and whatever you need, they take care of it. But I love it. I love having, and there's so much that I'm not going to use some things just because we don't do any online ordering. The kitchen would die. Yeah. So a lot of that stuff that a lot of people could really benefit, I'm just not going to even try. But what we do use with Pop Menu is great. I love it. And again, it's underutilized, but I'm going to try and make myself do it a lot more.
All right, Pop Menu. John Piccirillo, he's my buddy there, man. You need to get somebody down there with Don to help him make sure he's leveraging this.
Listen, this girl, Amy, lives in New York City. Her parents live here, ironically, but she'll call me like, hey, man, why am I still seeing a banner for Cinco de Mayo? And it's like May 8th. I'm like,
oh, that's awesome.
I forgot to cut it. Well, you can actually make it so that it doesn't run beyond that. And it's pretty well automated. But why haven't you done anything lately? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? I'm like, I don't know. So they are great. I mean, they really, it's a cool company to be involved with as well. Is this something that you guys are doing? One of those companies you're partnering with as well?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good. That's
Yeah,
good.
we really we want to kind of re-engage with them and help promote them to our customers because we just think they're a great company and everybody we deal with there is great and
Yeah,
just
agreed.
believe in what they're doing. And we have so many mutual customers that are very happy like you. So
You know, I get my toast guy and my pop menu guy mixed up, and I'll call my pop menu guy and be like, "Man, why? I need to figure this out." He's like, "All right, man, let me see if I can figure that out for you." And then he goes, "I'll make a phone call," and I'm like, "But this is my pop menu guy who's calling the toast guy for me."
yeah,
And the first time I did it, I didn't remember. But when he called me back, he's like, "You know, I work for pop menu, right?" I'm like, "Oh shit, really?" But he really, I mean, his name's Ryan. He lives here in town. He's great. And I don't know why I get them confused because it's kind of pop menu and toast also
they
do their
sync up.
thing. So
Yeah,
and we put it together incorrectly the first time, so I'm having if I make that work to its fullest, I got to redo the whole menu. So that ain't happening. So well, listen, I appreciate it. I don't want to keep you anymore. I know I have diarrhea of the mouth, as my old man would say, but it's always good to talk to you. Always good
good
to
to
see you.
talk to you too, man. It's so freaking great to talk to you. I appreciate it so much, Tom.
All right, thank you, dude. How do you get off this thing? I was only about my fourth Zoom call in my life.
I'll end it.
All right,
And
cool.
we'll catch up soon and
Yeah,
I
get
may
back
be
down
heading
here.
your way. Maybe heading
Bring
that
your
way in the
stuff.
fall. I always come down for that guys trip in like January, February, but I may head that way in the fall. We'll come by and hang.
All right, cool.
All
Love
right,
to
man.
see you all. Thanks.
See ya. Bye.
Boom.